What's going on, YouTube gamers? Bonfire here, and the world is buzzing with Nintendo Switch news as Nintendo finally held their Switch presentation. I watched it live, and man, I had to take a day or two to digest that. And quite frankly, I mean, there's some things I really like and I'm super stoked for, but on the other hand, there's some things that I think didn't go so well and were some missed opportunities for Nintendo. So I want to take a moment, share some of my thoughts in reaction to the Nintendo Switch presentation. So unconventionally, I want to start with some of the good things that I took away from the presentation, starting with the fact that they came right out of the gate with the price point and the release date for the Nintendo Switch. The Switch is selling for $299 US currency, and that's what a lot of people, myself included, were expecting. So there really wasn't that much of a surprise there. I think any lower, and they're probably going to be losing money on the console. Any higher, and you're probably not going to move units a la 3DS. So the console is launching on March 3rd, 2017, which is really exciting because that's only, what, about 6 weeks away, at least the time of the filming of this video. And that's a lot sooner than I thought we'd be seeing the Switch. I expected, mid to late March, but it's coming up real quick and I'm pretty excited. They also gave us the battery life, but it was a range. It's 2.5 to 6 hours, so I expect about 3 hours of battery life while you're on the go. It's dependent upon whatever game you're playing, but we got that information. I'm not too surprised. The cool thing is, I mean, you can play plugged in, so if you're near a cord, even if you're on, near an outlet on the go, you can just plug it in, play it just like a 3DS. So I'm not too worried there about the battery life. They also mentioned their online functionality with the Switch and their account system, and though they didn't touch on like a unified account system, but they said that they're moving to a monthly subscription model similar to PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live. And though they didn't go into details about that, and that's not happening until towards the end of this year, which is really weird and kind of tells me they're not ready for it, I think that is a bad move on Nintendo's part, because currently Nintendo in the console space is the only one that doesn't charge for online gameplay. And so when you're not directly, but you're in the same marketplace competing against the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, and you're the one that has free online, that gives you an advantage. Additionally, we got a Zelda Breath of the Wild release date. Finally! Holy crap, we've been waiting years for this. And boy, did they drag it out. Holy crap. They drug this out in the most painful, awkward way. I mean, looking back, it's kind of funny, but gosh darn, they trolled us. It is March 3rd, 2017, alongside the Nintendo Switch, so that's good news. Zelda is a launch title. Very excited about that. And they also showed a trailer, never before seen trailer. We got a first glimpse of Zelda herself, as well as some of other Link's friends that I assume he's going to be encountering, butting up on this adventure. And it was just a really good trailer, really moving trailer, very emotional, and that game just looks incredible. I cannot wait for it. They also announced Splatoon 2, which I'm super excited about. It's not a port of the original game, which a lot of people suspected. I thought they might do a Splatoon 2. I was hoping it would be a sequel. Turns out it is, and that is incredible. Splatoon is a really good game. It's a really fun shooter, and though it doesn't appeal to a lot of, the Call of Duty, the hardcore first-person shooter players, if you ever get a chance, give it a try, because it's a really fun and really well done shooter. It's just really good, and Splatoon 2 is more Splatoon, and I love the idea of having Splatoon on the go. Ever since I first played Splatoon, I wanted a mobile Splatoon version like on the 3DS. Now I'm gonna get that, and that is really, really exciting. My last positive takeaway is that we finally know what that 3D Mario game was in the reveal trailer for the Switch. It's Super Mario Odyssey, and boy did they show this game in a really weird trailer. Mario was in New York, like downtown New York, just jumping on cars, interacting with like real normal people, which just looks super awkward. But then they showed some of the worlds that you're going to be exploring, some of the platforming and some of his new moves. He's got a cap with eyeballs on it. That's weird, but he can like throw it and jump on it and stuff like that. So the gameplay looks incredible. I'm super stoked for it. The only downside to this is that it's not a launch title. It's coming out holiday of 2017, so the end of this year. And oh man, that really sucks. And to start off with the missed opportunities, that is a big one. And that leads me to some of the bad things that I took away from the Nintendo Switch presentation. And quite honestly, what I think are missed opportunities for Nintendo, starting with the focus on motion controls. As Nintendo transitioned out of that preliminary information, they moved into the Joy-Con controllers, and quite honestly, the Joy-Con controllers seemed like a really cool piece of tech. But the way they kind of presented it was very awkward in showing like this HD haptic thing in there that like feels like there's an ice cube in there, and they were showing him like a glass with an ice cube. I don't know, it's just very weird. And then they transitioned, and the first games they showed were motion controlled games with 1-2 switch, which quite honestly is probably the dumbest game I've ever seen in my life. And it may be fun, it may be great in a party situation for like 10 minutes, but it's a motion controlled game that seems like it could have been done on the Wii a decade ago. And then you have ARMS, which is basically Wii boxing, and that's literally what I was thinking as I was watching this, is like, we have these games. This is boxing, this is the Wii all over again. Now, on one hand, I don't doubt that ARMS is a fun game. It seems like it could be fun, especially, playing with your friends, but for like 30 minutes, and then you're done with it. So on the other hand, it's still motion controlled. Why with this motion controlled approach? I don't understand it. No one wants motion controls, yet that's what they focused on. And I think that's a huge missed opportunity and bad messaging on Nintendo's part. Another missed opportunity for Nintendo was the fact that also during the beginning of the conference, they didn't touch on any of the Nintendo Switch's specs. Those specs were actually released after the conference and the following day when we finally got all the details, and quite frankly, that's stupid. Nintendo didn't talk about the Switch's internal storage, which I think ends up being 32 gigabytes, which to today's standards is quite low. However, you can throw in a micro SD card in there for some additional storage up to, I want to say like 2 terabytes or something, so that negates the problem. And so it's not a huge issue, but they also didn't talk about any of the processing power, the tablet screen resolution, which I think that ends up being 720p, which again is low compared to today's standards. And so now in a marketplace where everyone's screaming for more power, everyone's all about more power, that resolution, the frame rate, especially those PC folks and they're like 15 graphics cards. They have this information out there now, they don't even get a chance to talk about it. And so that's a missed opportunity on their part, because Nintendo has always kind of had underpowered consoles. That's just the way they've been. However, they still produce some of the best games available on the market. And that's the message they should have conveyed. Nintendo should have came out, maybe had a little fun with it and said, here's the Nintendo Switch's specs. Boom, 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 boom. Lay it out there, put it out there. People will be underwhelmed, be like, what, really? 720p? Like, come on. But then convey the point that Nintendo has always traditionally had underpowered consoles. However, we make some of the best games you've ever played, regardless of the power on our platform. You enjoy our games. We know we make great games. That's what we want to do here. This is the platform we have, this is the platform we want, this is the platform we're behind, and you know what? There's some great games coming to it that are gonna blow your mind. Say something like that, control the message. They didn't do that. That's a fail. Another negative that I took away from the conference was third-party support. Now, Nintendo had some third-party publishers and developers, come on stage and kind of talk a little bit. EA was there. They announced FIFA, not a numbered FIFA, but FIFA is coming to the Switch, whatever that means. And out of all the games EA has, that's the one. Square Enix showed off a weird game that quite honestly actually looks really cool. Like the gameplay and for what they showed of it looks cool, but it's called Project Octopath Traveler. The most absurd name I've ever heard of, but that was awkward. They also had this guy who I think was the gentleman who made like Not So Heroes or Not a Hero game or something like that. I'm not 100% sure, but it was the most awkward presentation of any video game conference I've ever seen. He basically came up there and said, so I'm thinking about making a Switch game. You know, Nintendo approached me. They said, hey, do you want to make a game for the Switch? You know, I like the Switch, it looks cool, so I'm thinking about making a game. Don't have a title for it or anything, but I'm probably gonna make a game for Switch, so keep an eye out for it. And then he did some like weird thing. Like, what? You're up here on stage, you don't have a game to show us, you don't even have a game that's in development, doesn't even have a title. What the hell are you doing on stage? Why, Nintendo? Why is this a thing? And I feel like that summed up what we saw from third parties. Yeah, there's some third party games, and they've said that they're working with over 50 different companies, but their showing was atrocious. And the games that they've talked about that are coming to the Switch are old games that people have already played that are on other platforms. And what that tells me is it feels like this is a repeat of the Wii U, that there isn't going to be much third party support here. And that is worrisome because Nintendo needs that, and really saddens me, to be quite honest. And the last negative takeaway from the Nintendo Switch conference was the lack of launch lineup. During the presentation and after the presentation, I sat back and just thought to myself, so what games are coming out on launch? What am I going to be playing? I mean, so we got Zelda. I think they mentioned 1-2 Switch, which there's no way in hell I'm getting that game unless I get it for free or something. Is that it? Like, what's going on here? Also, towards the end of the conference, they showed a little sizzle reel, like they do in most video game press conferences, of a bunch of different games, but we saw a bunch of games they didn't even talk about. Like, I think, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but like JF 5, Bomberman was in there, Sonic was in there, Minecraft is in there, and so people were asking like, oh wait, is that Bomberman? Is there a Bomberman game? Sonic? Is there a Sonic game coming? What's going on here? And they didn't even talk about these games. So why are you showing me these games that you didn't even talk about? It makes no sense. That to me is just a huge issue. You have these games in this sizzle reel that you could have showed off and actually have release dates for. Instead, you brought on these weird third-party publishers that have like nothing for you and were super awkward during your conference, and you showed off these little teasers that are just teasers and are probably not even in development. It's like, what the hell were you thinking? Again, this is a missed opportunity where Nintendo should have just came out and said, here's our launch games, boom, 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 boom. You're going to be playing this within the first couple months, boom, boom. You're going to be playing this in the fall, boom, boom. And towards the beginning of next year, you're going to be playing this, boom, boom, boom. Just lay it out so people can go into buying the Switch, feel confident that they're buying something, that they're going to have games coming out throughout the next year, and something to look forward to. Instead, we have a really shitty launch lineup with really, for me, only 2 games that I'm really interested in, with Zelda Breath of the Wild and Bomberman. I'm super stoked for Bomberman, by the way. Very excited. The rest of them are like games we've already had that most people have already played, and a couple, like 2 other weird motion games that no one wants. And then you have these random launch windows for games that don't even seem like they're very far in development. I just don't understand this approach. And it's such a bad messaging, it's such a huge missed opportunity for Nintendo, and it makes me so sad. Overall, I am still excited about the Switch because I want to play Zelda on it. I like the idea of having Zelda on the go, and I'm super stoked for Bomberman, as well as Splatoon later down the road, and Mario, that Mario Odyssey game. And quite honestly, the Switch is a really cool piece of tech. But on the other hand, I'm very concerned because I feel like we're going down the same path as the Wii U. I feel like Nintendo just bombed this conference, even though they showed some really cool things. They just bombed it, and they didn't sell the Switch. They should have came out. They didn't sell the Switch, and I mean, I even questioned my pre-order at times, and that's saying something. I'm a big Nintendo. I mean, you can see all the Nintendo amiibos I have. I love Nintendo. I grew up with Nintendo, And here we are with the Switch, and they just poorly executed. I know I've rambled on long enough, but I wanted to get this out there to kind of give some of my thoughts and reaction to the Nintendo Switch conference. And I do want to say, I am truly a Nintendo guy. I love Nintendo. I said it before, I grew up with Nintendo. And quite honestly, I had big hopes for the Nintendo Switch. I mean, that first trailer that we saw of the Nintendo Switch, it felt like they were going in a different direction for Nintendo. And it felt like they had learned some lessons. But then we get this conference that takes us back a decade. And I feel like Nintendo hasn't learned their lessons. And I felt like it was such a letdown. There's some great things to take away from that conference. Don't get me wrong. I'm still getting a Switch, and there's some things I'm very excited for. But in the large scheme of things, in the big picture, I think Nintendo did some really bad things that could hurt them in the long run. So let me know what you guys think about the Nintendo Switch and their conference down in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed this long, very rambling video, but hopefully I made some valid points. And well, until next time, I'm Bonfire, and I will see you online.
Now come up. It's shady you now if you whip it, put your hands up. All the fly ladies to the front, go ahead and stand up. Fellas, if